First of all, I believe that sound and music is just as important as visuals. And especially in a digital space, we only have two senses. We have seeing and hearing. And if we don't capitalize and utilize the soundscape, we're actually missing out 50% of the bandwidth.
Hey, what's up, branding experts? Arek here at eBay Design, and welcome to On Branding Podcast. And my guest today is Karsten Kjems. Karsten joins us from Denmark, and he's a passionate sound designer. So he specializes in audio branding, and he has over 20 years of experience creating logo sounds, brand music, and sonic branding in general for companies like Carlsberg, Volvo, Asus, Jabra, just to name a few. So on today's podcast, we're going to talk about the power of sonic branding. Hello, Karsten. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, Eric. Thank you for allowing me to join your podcast.
Thank you so much. So when it comes to branding, sound is almost like an overlooked thing, right? Some brands use
very
it
much.
and some brands don't. But can you talk to us about the importance of sound when it comes to branding? Why is it important? Why we should develop, besides focusing on visuals, we should also focus on how our brand sounds, and whether it is logo music or brand music or for commercials, for other purposes.
Definitely. First of all, I believe that sound and music is just as important as visuals. And especially in a digital space, we only have two senses. We have seeing and hearing. And if we don't capitalize and utilize the soundscape, we're actually missing out 50% of the bandwidth. So I believe that sound and sound design, user experience with sound is very important to create a cohesive and emerging brand experience in today's world. Also, I believe that we see and evaluate as much with our ears as we do with our eyes. I'm what you call very sensitive to noise. So I can actually hear you just by your room, Eric. I can hear that you're sitting in a room around 10 to 15 square meters. You have not noise canceled any of your background, so there's some kind of a room echo in the podcast. So just by hearing your voice in that room, I can have an understanding of, are you sitting in a big concert hall or this minor office? The blue one you can see in my back screen here is sound absorbers. We're trying to create a really good soundscape in our office rooms. This is one of the studios here. We evaluate and hear instantly with our ears. Perhaps you have noticed, try once to go into a restaurant or a clothing store and just you went in there and suddenly the music was too loud or the music wasn't your style. You said, well, this doesn't feel right. Let's go again. Even though you haven't even tasted the coffee or tried the drink or tried some clothes, it doesn't feel right because your senses instantly, is it too hot? Is the music the wrong music? I believe, and that is substantiated by data, that music is a strong person identification for who we are and also brands. So that's why it's very important for brands to know that it's not irrelevant how you use sound and music in your marketing and communication.
Yeah, I totally agree. Basically, just some key takeaways. So it's one of our senses, and we shouldn't dismiss it. Obviously, we like to see things, right? Visuals, where we see things is probably the most dominant sense. But how we experience brands when it comes to sound and music also is very important. So can you just talk to us about maybe some of the most iconic sounds? Obviously, something like McDonald's, we all know, right? Can you give us a few more examples so we can? Because by the way, I just want to mention this. Sorry, I'm jumping from subject to subject, but I've looked at your portfolio and I love the way you present your work. You always have logo sound basically, and then you have brand music, right? So what are some of the other iconic logo sounds besides this param pam 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 that people?
Well, there are several iconic sounds, I would say, that have been there for many years.
Yeah.
Some go many years back. The Intel bong, bum, bum, bum. That's made back in the 90s as well.
Yeah.
And the version you're hearing today is actually the sixth or seventh generation of the same old logo, but they keep tweaking it and updating it, just like you do with visual identities. They have a small tweak in terms of flatten the logo or make it more 3D or add some more instruments, but still the same core melody. Also, you have the Netflix bong, which is getting pretty known. And also it was updated last year, I think it was, by Hans Zimmer, the German film composer, because Netflix is a major media company today. And they also release their own films on their own platform. And when they have this release of their own premiere films, they have a long intro with the Netflix, just like MGM Roar with the lions, etc. So there are several brands out there that have been there for many years. But I also think I believe that the future of this will be more subliminally, meaning that, for instance, if you put on your headset and you have a power on sound there, that's a sound you hear daily. So people are moving away from the major broadcasting scenes to more product sounds. Especially we're doing some work with for some car brands as well. And a car today is primarily a driving iPad. All the sounds within an e-car today are electronically produced. They're designed. So the turning left, left sheening, lane shifting sounds, forward collision sounds, or your back seat belt is unlocked, etc. You're running low of power, etc. All these information sounds has to create meaning. So the audio landscape is getting more and more complex. Whereas in the old days, you have go on TV, you heard the ba-dam bam bam bam,
Right.
always Coca-Cola, and you would know who it was. But today, brands has to be a lot more conscious about how to use sounds because the audio landscape and media landscape has evolved massively. So that's why yeah.
That's a good point. So basically, you're saying this, okay, so it works just as logos. The sound can work just as logo for a brand. If we see the big M on the side of the road, we know it's McDonald's. But if we have our eyes closed and we hear someone coming from another room, this param pam pam pam, we immediately know that this is McDonald's, right? Because we've heard this over and
Yeah.
over again. We saw some commercials. So obviously, obvious use for this, for brand music, or even if it's something simple as logo sound, it just takes it's just a few seconds. Right? We can obviously use it in commercials, but you're saying that the landscape evolves these days. And I totally agree because now, like for example, this is what I'm trying to figure out with my podcast too. I should have some intro and outro music.
Yeah, but don't you have that?
Yeah, I do have some, but I need to work on that definitely. Maybe we can work together. We can talk about that. I always wanted to design a professional brand music for intro, outro, and for my logo animation. I have some, but I feel like it could be done much better, especially when you look at your portfolio. I was very impressed and how you break it down, how you show us some of the strategy, how you came up, like why you use these melodies, right? How did you compose the whole thing, right? I think it's a great segue to also talk about that, right? So we've talked about how you can use it. You can use it for your podcast, you can use it for your YouTube intro, outro, right? Whenever you use the logo in commercials, right? But I wanted to talk about the process now. So can you just talk to us about a typical process? How does it look like when a brand comes to you, or some company comes to you? Let's say it could be a car brand, as you mentioned, or it could be like another brand. Do you have like a step-by-step process?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. For larger brands, when they come to us, it depends on what department. Some larger brands come to us from the product side. They say, we have this product and we need to have some really good user experience sounds. Come and help us with that. Some other brands come to us from the marketing department and say, we need to go on TV or on YouTube. We need to have some films. Can you produce a strong order logo for a brand or some brand music? So we always challenge the client to say, where is the sound going to be used? Have you thought about the whole user journey? So we start with the analysis of the brand. Also, a competitor analysis is very important. We need to know how the other brands out there sound so we don't make a copycat. We start with the client. We always ask, what is it they want to achieve? Is it recognizability? Do you want to be recognized just like the McDonald's Intel? Then you have to be very persistent by using the same sound over and over again in all your touch points. For that instance, if you go back to the headset company, this one here, I don't listen to this brand's headsets commercials every day, but I listen to the UX sounds every day because I use the product daily. So the client sometimes misunderstood, where are we using sound? Where are our clients, our users hearing our brand mostly? They don't hear us on TV that much anymore or on radio. They hear it in their product, in the app, in the car or in the headset, or your microwave also says different sounds. So we're trying to educate them and move them to a more holistic scape of sound experience. And sometimes they come to us and say, we need an order logo, but they end up with some UX sound. Sometimes they come to us asking for some UX sounds for products, but we end up creating both an order logo for their commercials, but also their products. So it starts with a discussion of what their ambitions are, their visions as well. And if we have come to agreement, we start the actual creative process where we convert the values and visions into musical relatable terms. And that's quite complex. So how does innovative or modern or futuristic sound like? Or we want to be experienced as a hero. How does a hero sound like? So there are different metaphors we can use, and we can both use quantitatively and qualitatively research to find out if you want to be experienced as the rebel, then you should probably sound like this. because it's very important for a brand that there are consistency throughout their different brand touch points. So it's quite a complex thing. We don't have anything in stock. We always handmade and produce everything from the bottom up. And
Custom. Okay.
over several iterations, we figure out, is this too innovative? Is this too joyful? Is this too modern? Is this too whatever? Then we find the right balance. And the client says, yes, now here it is. And often a client also has some motion graphic and animation of their brand name. So we need to justify that to the visuals, or the visuals need to be adjusted to the sound. So that's the hen and the egg. But if you look to the back and forth, and you can see the Asus case on our website, the computer, it took, I can ask you, Arek, how long do you think it take to produce an order logo for like a company for that?
Oh, that's a good question. It's probably the same question as if you ask a designer how long it takes you to design a logo. You can probably, I could probably say, hey, I can design a logo in 5 minutes. I can execute in 5 minutes, but getting to that idea and knowing what to do, that's the most time consuming part. So it can take me weeks or even months if it's like a full brand identity with a star guide and everything. Yeah, maybe the execution, since you have so much experience, once you know what to do, you can do this. If someone told you, hey,
then it's easy.
Recreate this, then it's easy. But coming up with the concept, polishing this, fine-tuning the sounds, as you mentioned, right?
Exactly.
Thinking about what to take out.
It can take months. So it took actually 2 to 3 months to get to the right solution.
Okay.
But then when we got it, then you can see, wow, yes, here it is. But behind that one solution, we have 99 sketches, demos that didn't work. So it's a very refined process.
Right.
And also we need to argument, why do we sound like this? And there's also need to create guidelines. And so after we have delivered the order logo, the companies also need to know, okay, now we got the order logo. How should we use it on TikTok? How should we use it in a radio commercial? Is that the same version we can use here as in TikTok to have more engagement or more instruments for that platform, etc.? So it's kind of like the visuals. You have different visuals for your Facebook, for your TikTok, for your banners outside the company, for your cars, etc. So the order logo today has to be really flexible. So we call that flexible consistency in sound. It's still the same audio logo, but it's slightly modified to fit the different channels, because you have different criteria for the different channels. If it's a cinema, we can use 3D, you mean surround sound order logos. Whereas many platforms people play on their phones, has to be optimized for that version, and also in terms of length and duration. So yes, it is getting much more complicated. In old days, there were only TV and radio. That's it, basically, and perhaps cinema. Today, especially in our part of the world, Northern Europe, TV and commercials are going down, whereas social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, product sounds are growing a lot more. So it's getting more complex for the clients to use sound to create that kind of recognition that they want. Because basically, Arek, our clients doesn't want sound. They want brand equity. So we actually don't produce order logo or sound design. We create brand equity with sound. So if I can ask you a question here, if you were to buy McDonald's brand of me, let's say I own McDonald's and you want to buy McDonald's, and we figure out a price. Let's say, just for the case of it, $100 million. Here you go. Here's McDonald's. But I say to you, you can have the whole McDonald's chain, everything, except the sound logo, because they're going to use that for another brand next week. So how much would you pay less for the McDonald's brand if you don't get the ba-dum-bum?
That's pretty iconic.
5%?
Yeah.
What's it worth? I'm just trying to have this theoretical question, but
it's worth a lot. I was just saying, the logo is worth a lot, right? These things are inseparable. And I get what you're saying. You're building brand equity. So for every company who is like with the logo, like with the visuals, right? That's what it is. If you want to buy a McDonald's, you see what happened in Russia, right? Like, they had to redesign everything it does. But it's not McDonald's anymore. It's another brand, right? Even if they use they're all like the same ingredients and stuff like that, right?
Excuse me, would McDonald's be the same brand if it didn't sound like ba-bam? Would it then be McDonald's anymore? If another brand used that tone with different visuals? What is McDonald's? Is it the sound, the logo? Can you see how confused people will get if you suddenly hear the sound and you see a different logo? You say, oh, that's not McDonald's, or McDonald's sounds differently. Yeah. What is it? So the value for McDonald's is very high in terms of sound and music. Yeah. And if you want to create really strong brand equity with sound and music, brands need to capitalize their order landscape. And not all brands have understood or are aware of how many brand touchpoints they have with sounds. Perhaps a brand have an app and they have millions of users of that app. So people are daily interacting with those sounds in that app. Right. So that can create really strong brand equity as well. We are educating the market as well because, as you told me, the process, people come to us from one department of the company. They need sound for an app or sound for a commercial or sound for a product. We're saying that's fine. But what about the other side of your company where I call you up in the phone? You're on hold music. That sounds like Western music. In your app here, it sounds like an IT company. And on the website, I see something differently. Who are you? I get confused.
Right.
So consistency is king. That said, Eric, it's very important for me to say that we believe that silence is king. Whenever you break the silence, it has to create more meaning than the silence itself. Otherwise, we're creating noise. We see so many people here in Europe, perhaps also in the US, that are going to retreats, going to the forest, because there's so much noise. We're getting bombarded with sounds. People are wearing these in-ears with anti-noise cancellation. We're trying to omit, push away all the noises. So if you need to break through that, it has to create meaning.
Right.
What do you do if you have a product in your house that keeps, let me ask you a different question. Are there any of your house appliances or products you know of that annoys you? Sound in the car or in your house or at your work? Something is really, why does it always scream at me? Can you come up with something?
You want me to come up with some examples of brands that I
Yeah.
hear every day?
No, just a sound
sound?
that annoys you.
Sound that
Yeah.
annoys me? I don't know, probably like when you take a subway, let's say, and the doors close and someone holds the door, is this beeping, and it's really
Yeah.
annoying because everybody's wasting time. Someone is holding the door, right? So that's probably
Yeah.
one of those.
So that's a sound, it's an alert sound, but there also might be, for instance, I have a tumble dryer. Whenever it's done, it plays a symphony. And I was just asking, why is my tumble dryer playing a symphony when it's done? I didn't ask for that. So my home is getting invaded by invasive sounds. And suddenly you have your fridge can play a sound. We have IoT, your speaker is talking to you. I'm getting bombarded with sounds. But if they don't create meaning, they can become to noise. If the sound is pleasantly helping me in understanding and navigating my day, it's a help. So it's a fine edge here.
Right.
Because sound is a very powerful tool. It can create direct meaning, but it can also turn you off in a basic way to say, oh, don't shout at me, turn it off. I cancel all the sounds, or you have no noise, or you have to cancel all the notification sounds on your phone because they're bombarding you. That's a challenge.
Yeah, that's a challenge. So we need to pay attention to that and just make sure whatever we are doing is consistent. And I love
create meaning.
Yeah, and create meaning, by the way, as you mentioned before, right? So it's all about and I love how you construct the sound because, for example, for Asus, we have this logo sound, and then we also have brand music, which is a longer version of logo sound. Incorporate some of the same
They are
melody.
in family. They have the same.
They are,
yes,
yeah.
exactly the same elements.
You can hear that this is a one brand. This is not like coming from different angles, different personalities.
Yeah.
So just to sum up for our listeners, first, you are trying to establish the goals. What is the goal? What's the point of doing this? Where do customers?
What's the purpose?
Yeah.
What do you want to achieve?
What do you want to achieve? You look at the brand holistically as a whole, and then you focus on those brand touch points, right? It can be different things for different brands. And then you try to figure out what do you want to convey through this music, right? So as you mentioned, it could be rebellious, it could be a hero, it could be a magician, it could be we could use archetypes or some personality traits.
We do that. We use archetypes as well. We do different pointers, and then we challenge the clients to make sure that we tailor-made the sound design needed for this specific brand touchpoint that represents this brand as well. And for that process, we also try to play the sound together with different films that the client already have made so they can see and hear, okay, if we play this music together with our visuals, does that fit? Does it suit us? Yeah.
Right.
So that's the creative process.
Awesome. So yeah, and then you tweak it, right? So sometimes clients have already, as you mentioned, they may have some kind of a logo animation, so you need to work with that, or you just go back and forth to make sure those things match, right? So yeah, that's about it. I think you basically covered that, and I encourage you guys to check out Karsten's website, which is sonicminds.dk. DK,
that's right.
It stands for Denmark. And what's the best way to connect with you? Is it LinkedIn?
LinkedIn or info@sonicminds.dk. We're very easy to find, or if you just search on Google for audio branding, we are among the findings from Google. So we're pretty easy to find.
Okay.
And, yes, so feel free to check us out.
Awesome. And okay, so check out Karsten's website. I'm going to leave a link below. And if you have any questions, if you want to work with Karsten, you can reach out on LinkedIn, right?
No problem.
Thanks, Karsten. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Eric. Pleasure meeting you, and like to follow your podcast further.
Thank you so much.